Guys, making friends is tough. It's hard, especially as an adult. Remember as a kid, it was like, hey, you want to be friends?
Right.
And next thing you know, you're there. Let's go play with Hot Wheels or Barbies or whatever, and we're good to go. But it's tough. It's tricky as an adult. And so this is cool. Our guests today are Amy Weatherly and Jess Johnston. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
They've already got a best-selling book. We're here to talk about another one, and I love the name of this book, guys. I'll be there, but I'll be wearing sweatpants.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like after that book came out that it was our to wear sweatpants all the time. And so that was a fun job to have.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I would recommend to everybody. Yeah, everybody slip the word sweatpants into your book title, and then you are basically, they will expect you to show up wearing sweatpants. It's wonderful. Nobody. That's
Even on
want.
Good Morning America, their first question was, "Are you wearing sweatpants?" And we were like, "Well, should have been."
Yeah.
Oops.
Right. It's the sweatpants tour. Why not? So this is cool. We've got a how-to guide for deepening your friendship and doing life together. Here for it, the good, the bad, and the queso. That's what we're talking about today. And we all agree the queso is not bad. That is good. That is a good thing.
I love queso so much, my phone went through a phase where if I typed it, it capitalized it.
Oh,
It
really?
got as excited as I did. Yeah.
Mine also capitalizes it. I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
I think it's just excited, and why wouldn't it be?
exactly.
It's a proper noun. It is a proper noun.
That's right. Well, thank you guys for joining the show. Really appreciate it. And well, let's talk about friendship and maybe how your story began. How'd you guys meet?
Jess and I were both writing separately on the internet, just kind of doing our thing. And I had heard of her. I knew who she was. I think she knew who I was too. And I slid into her DMs. And I just kind of slid in there in those Instagram messages, and I was like, "Hey, girl, I just really like the way you write." And I basically I was that kid on the playground that was like, "I think we should be friends. I don't know. What do you think? Does that sound like fun to you?" And we just kind of went from there, from like Instagram messages to text messages to phone calls. Then we began this page called Sister I Am With You that is all about friendship. And then from there, we actually met in real life. And then we real life also liked each other. So that was good. So then we went from there.
That's awesome. All right. So now why Here For It? What's this all about?
We felt like our first book, I'll Be There, really laid the foundation to talk about friendship. I'll back up a bit. I think we started our page, Sister I'm With You, talk about friendship because we really didn't see a place that was talking about it in just a real authentic way. Like maybe lots of noise saying, find your people, friends, but then there wasn't the how, and there wasn't the calling it out as this is super awkward and really hard. And am I weird because I don't really know how in a conversation with the other mom on the phone or whatever it is. We wanted to talk about our real struggles and the real roadblock friendship. So after that conversation, we felt like there was just a lot of response. Women everywhere, especially, were like, "Oh my gosh, I need friends. I want friends." And I thought it was just me that felt awkward. So we felt like it was time to write a book, and that's where I'll Be There came in. But that was really laying the foundation. Here For It is digging even deeper and answering harder questions, some more specific questions. Because friendship's a big deal and we don't talk about it enough.
No, we don't. You're right. And now I got to know why the queso involved. What's this all about?
Well, we weren't sure what could be as awesome as sweatpants, and that was a very hard thing to achieve. So this coming up with the title was like a crisis because like how do we match sweatpants? And the only thing we could think of that's as amazing as sweatpants is queso. And queso, share it with your friends. It I don't know.
I don't.
Represents coming together.
It's mine.
It's all yours.
Kidding.
I will make myself my own little batch of. That is very true.
There
and my
you
kids are
go.
completely.
And that's why Misty has trouble with friends today.
Why does nobody like you? I won't share my queso.
And I love that you shared your queso recipe in the book.
Yes, because priorities.
Yep.
So if you're looking for friendship, you want this book because it has a really good queso recipe in it that you have to share.
There's the number one selling point is the queso recipe. Forget about the recipe.
Yeah, that's actually what we talk about.
That's awesome.
You talk about authentic friendship, and I immediately, my two best girlfriends came to mind. And I don't think I had, well, I know I didn't have a relationship like this prior to them. And both of them, we've just become very close in the last 10 years, where not only do we have an amazing time together, we laugh, we have fun, we encourage one another, we hold each other accountable. That was kind of new. Like, we point out when the other one's doing something like a little wonky. We have serious conversations where we're not afraid to just lay it on the line. And I love that. I'm experiencing that, like I said, in the past decade for the first time. How would you just define an authentic friendship for you?
You did a pretty good job.
Way to
Thank
go.
you.
Move on to question number 2.
That's my new book, Defining Authentic Friendship.
Authentic, and that kind of goes back to the title of Here For It. So authentic means I am going to be exactly who God made me to be. I'm going to be all of it. And I want you to be all of you too. And I recognize that in accepting all of you and in hoping you'll accept all of me, that I have to be here for it. And that means you're also there. You're also here for the messy, and you're also here for the awkward. You're also here when it does get hard. You're also here when it gets weird. You're here for truth. And sometimes telling your friend the truth, holding them accountable, is really hard, because you have to know when you're saying those things that they might not receive it well, that they may not like it, but they need it. So you're basically saying, I love you enough to share this with you, in hopes that you grow and hope that you learn and sort of become, get a little bit closer to being in God's image, and just holding each other accountable, I think, is just such a big deal. And it's not always received well. If we're not careful, if we're insecure, it comes off as insecurity, and we can be very defensive when that comes. But it is an integral part of friendship, especially as Christians. We need that.
I think the whole accountability thing, I think most of us are afraid to even go there.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah.
I think we have to welcome it. We have to be willing to hear it. I think a big deal is we all have blind spots, and they're called blind spots because we literally can't see them without people in our lives loving us enough to say things that are hard, and to also be like, those pants, they gotta go. You have to throw them out right now, because they're young, especially public wearing, like, throw things away, like the little things and the big things. Like, I know things in my life that I absolutely did not realize about myself without my friends saying, like, hey, when we talked about that, you got really intense, and I'm not really sure why. It kind of hurt my feelings. And maybe, what? I did? I had no idea. Like, I think it's a really big deal.
We used to challenge each other to, like, try to work scripture into conversation. And a Facebook memory popped up. This is my best friend back in New Jersey. A Facebook memory popped up where I was having a bad day and I was feeling grouchy. And she was like, well, you're just going to have to pull a Philippians 4:6 and rearrange that mindset. And I was like, I'll be doing good to accomplish Exodus 20:13 today, which is, thou shalt not kill.
That's fun. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was fun. Probably not what she intended.
No, not at all.
I have typically been a one friend. In fact, I have a memory of my 5th grade teacher calling a parent-teacher conference because she was so worried that Sally had one friend. I was perfectly happy in my world, and then, I've had friendships that have sadly disintegrated when I've really trusted and thrown myself in, and just experiencing that kind of betrayal when it ended. Wow. So there's so many different levels when you agree to do what we're talking about and be vulnerable and allow them into our lives. So what would you say, talking about recognizing when a friendship has sadly run its course? How do we deal with that? How do we even recognize that, maybe the healthiest thing is to move on?
I think a big deal is normalizing it. Let's normalize it and stop feeling, I know for me, I can feel shame if a friendship has run its course, like it's a failing on my part, that I couldn't make it happen. But sometimes friendships are for a season, and that's really hard. Because Amy and I talked about before, like we wish when we made a friend would just be like, okay, sign here on this dotted line. I will love you forever and we will be besties forever. But that's not real. And I think we need to be open. And sometimes God has somebody in our life for a season, and then they're not the one to walk with in the next season. And that's really painful, but space in our lives that opens up, who knows who the next person is going to be that is right for this season. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that is a pretty big theme in this book, actually, because it's something Jess and I we didn't experience that with each other. We're still friends.
Actually in a fight right now. I'm just kidding.
But in between writing the first book and this book, we both experienced a pretty major friendship loss. And so our publisher with us, someone's like, okay, so let's talk about basically how great and sunny and wonderful friendship is. And Jess and I were both like, so the thing is, we're kind of in a hurting spot right now when it comes to friendship. We have both felt burned, and we're both feeling we literally wrote a book on friendship. How could we lose a friend?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Just the thing I struggle with a lot when I lose a friend, and I don't lose them very often. I don't, because I will hold on for dear life. But when it happens, it makes me feel like, am I a bad person because I couldn't force this? Am I not living up to what God's called me to do because I couldn't make this work? How am I going to love this person the way God wants me to if they don't even like me?
Right.
These things, and sort of navigating that was instrumental, and it is so important. So I have had to really reframe the way that I look at friendships. And instead of being like, okay, the goal for this friendship is to last forever, and then clinging on for dear life, getting desperate, getting kind of blowing past red flags, disregarding our own heart. Instead of doing those things, I have decided that what I will say from now on, the goal of this friendship is to be healthy. It is to be good. It is to point back to God. And I will appreciate it for those things while it is. And when it's not, when it has gotten to the place where it's getting in the way of my relationship with God, maybe my relationship with my family, when it's kind of consuming me, it's probably time to step back, because it's possible I've made keeping this friendship forever an idol almost of kind. And it's time for me to maybe push that back and put first things first.
One of the questions that I had was 2020, I think, was detrimental to friendships. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but it seemed like it was, especially through virtual things and things like that, it just was difficult to keep that up. And just curious, you divided this book into two parts: recipes for working on yourself and showing up, and then recipes for deepening your friendships and doing life together. And I feel like we need both.
Yeah. That's what it just kind of naturally happens. Our editors, we just started writing. So we just wrote whatever was on our heart. There it was. And our editor, thank God for her, because she took all of that and was like, I actually see two very clear themes in what you're writing. You're writing a lot about self-work, which is important. And I think there's a quote somewhere in the book where it basically says, like, if we really want things to change, there is one way for us to make that happen. And that is to change ourselves, because we don't have any control of anybody else. We can only change us. And then the second part is, this is actually how you do it together. But I actually saw 2020 different. I thought that was the year that we realized how badly we needed friendship.
Oh, absolutely.
And we realized we were alone, and we were like, oh, crud, I have not been prioritizing this, and I should have.
We had started our page on friendship before that. And then that happened shortly after. And we just saw the conversation shift a lot around friendship, because we had seen a lot of memes floating around on the internet before that were like, I want to be invited, but I'm also not going to come. And for us, because we're so passionate about friendship, we're like, well, that you have to go sometimes though, or you're not going to ever build friendships. And we saw the conversation shift. Like, I wish I could go back, and I wish I could say yes. And I wish I could go and respond to those invitations differently. So we saw that shift, because I think suddenly the world got quiet, and we suddenly became very aware of the lack of connection.
Yeah. I guess what I was talking about is reconnecting, because you were you were so used to not going. And by the way, Sally, who's on the screen, she has the biggest problem with not going. She's not going to go whatever is invited to. She's not going to.
Let me clarify. I want to be invited, but I probably won't show up.
As long as you show up in some form, even if it's like show up for a phone call, show up for a text message, show up in some small way. Because friendship does, it requires a sacrifice for all of us,
It does.
But I think if you've got two friends, then you're probably doing it just fine.
I have two friends with the morning show sometimes. And what he just did, throwing me under the bus, that hurts, King.
But 2020 did get really weird. I mean, it did get really weird. And my guess is that most of us lost some friendships that year for whatever reason. But it was almost like a pruning season where God was like, listen, y'all I need you to be still. I need you to focus. I need you to sort of kind of prioritize and, cut back to the bare bones. So I think there was definitely a pruning season that happened in 2020. I know a few of my friendships changed. I don't know if I lost any, but they changed, where I had to look back and go, oh, wait, hang on. I don't know that this is a healthy one. So I think that happened for a lot of people. And now I am kind of sad, because I feel like we very quickly went from, I'm not going to let myself get that busy again. I'm not going to say yes to all this unnecessary stuff. I really am going to focus on my relationships. And we very quickly went back to that busy lifestyle. We very quickly stopped refocusing. We very quickly stopped reprioritizing. And that does honestly make me kind of sad that we forgot how badly we needed each other in 2020. And that was only 4 years ago. And I do feel like we've forgotten how badly, we depended on each other in that year. And that's how we got through the hard, because it was hard. It's hard. It was stressful. We got through with each other,
Great Scott, it's been 4 years.
That's crazy.
It's been 4 years.
That's crazy. Yeah. I know. I was shocked by that. Also, I'm like, really? Yeah.
Well, since you brought up 2020, that created a whole new problem for me. So I've always had, I've moved around a lot, but I've always had friends where I lived that I could go and do things with. And I moved to Tucson, Arizona, where the Family Life radio morning show is based, in the height of COVID. So I moved here. We were at home for the next 8 months.
Yep.
And then I got really weird during that time. Like I noticed when we were back in the building, I no longer knew how to speak to anybody except Kank and Sally and my husband. And I became super introverted. I mean, you can ask them, like when we get together here at work, I'm standing in the back going, I don't know what to do. Like this is, I got so socially awkward. And so my best friend from Texas came to visit me last February. And we went and did stuff, and I realized then how much I missed it, how much I missed having people to go and do stuff with. And so I went on Facebook and I was like, girlfriends, Tucson, help, where do I meet people? And I found this group where it's people like me, and the whole premise, like they started it because of 2020. We forgot how to connect once we were back out in the real world.
I love that.
And so I've made a couple of really great friends. And I'm really excited about that. Like, what are some ways that if you're looking for that connection, you can go about? Because I think it's like, as an adult, it is so difficult to make friends. How do we do it?
First of all, I would say a big one is to not overthink the awkward. Because I think so many of us feel like resonate with everything you're saying. Like, why am I so weird? Like, what is my problem? Why everybody can tell that I don't know what I'm doing and I'm so stressed out right now and I can't even have a normal conversation.
Now, is it even bigger of a deal if people are telling you that you're weird? Or is
Yeah. I know. I mean, that was a big roadblock. So I want everybody to know, just to ignore it. Just keep pressing through. Do exactly what you did. Just make steps towards friendship in some capacity, and don't overthink it. Don't think, well, I don't know if that group's going to have my future best friend. Like, there's something very powerful about just making a move towards what you know you need in some capacity. Because I feel like God takes that, and then even if you don't find your people in that group, you find this other open door over here and you're like, oh, okay. Like, just making movement towards friendship in some way, whether it's inviting someone from work just to get a coffee. Maybe it's so weird. Maybe it's so awkward. Don't worry. You don't ever have to do it again, but just making some step, stepping out of our busy life and taking any step. Don't think too hard about what step it is, just any step forward. And I feel like then you'll see the next step. Then you'll see the next step. And don't get too worried about being awkward, because I feel like almost all of us, I mean, there might be a few out there that never feel socially stressed or anxious or like the weirdest person in the room, but I think it's rarer than we think.
Yeah.
I know it's not real for me.
Yeah, I get socially anxious. And one thing that I remind myself, that I have learned to remind myself, I use this phrase all the time, is like, I'd rather be weird than rude. I'd rather be weird than lonely. I'd rather be weird than, I don't know, whatever your thing is. Weird's not the worst. I mean, so what? Someone thought I was weird, but I was kind to them. Yeah, I can live with that. So that's the phrase I have adopted. It's like, just live and connect with these people God has put in your path. And if you're weird, so what? That's just, is really not the worst.
Amy and Jess, the new book is, if you're weird, that's all right.
Right? Actually, we almost did do weird in the title. I have a little story about this. My dad is a pastor of a small church in Montana, and all my life, he's been like my pastor or my youth group leader, my Sunday school teacher. Like, it's always been him. And he used to do the most embarrassing thing. He would train a pet rock. Always. Like, and whenever we met new people, whenever there was like, whenever he was speaking at a church, all the time he would bring his rock up and he would pretend to train this rock. And the first one was always like, stay to this rock. And then they're like, wow, can you guys believe it? Like, my dad's very goofy. And, but he told me, he's like, I love doing stuff like that, because if I can be silly and if I show people that I don't take myself too seriously, I feel like it empowers other people to not feel weird about themselves.
Oh, that's good.
Or to not feel to not feel embarrassed or whatever. Like if I can be this ridiculous, it gives them space. And I think that's actually true. Even our little weird quirks when we meet someone, sometimes it's actually really nice. Like if I meet someone and they're a little quirky, I'm like, well, thank God. Me too.
Yeah.
I love you.
I like that. I made one friendship connection, and we met at like this group gathered, and so she and I decided we would go have dinner. And I struggle with mental health problems, and I fell into a funk. And my typical thing that I do is I hibernate, and I don't want to be around anybody. And I remember going, man, I'm going to be the worst company. And I was like, what? So I was like, I'm going to be honest. And I said, look, I'm really struggling. I don't know that I'm going to be the best company. And this sweet woman said, well, she said, I think maybe getting out would be good for you. And I think we're going to have fun no matter what. So if you're up to it, I would really love to go ahead and still meet for dinner. And I went and had a great time. And I actually think it kept me from spiraling. So I was very grateful for that connection. Like it's already made a difference.
Yes,
I think
tend
that's
to
a
spiral too.
huge tool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tend to spiral. When I was a brand new mom, and my baby had colic and just cried all the time. My husband was doing. He was in law school, so he was just at school studying constantly, and I'm just home with this baby. Where I'm like, this baby hates me. He's just fine. And I don't know what I'm doing, and I really got very depressed and very lonely because I was just holed up in my house, feeling like I smelled bad and like I was gross, and just knowing like I have no idea what I'm doing, what is happening. And so one of the things that I forced myself to do when I did not want to, but I was like, Amy, you have to get out of this house every day. And even if it was like a really small way, because I just didn't feel like I had it in me, I would go to Sonic during happy hour because we didn't have much money. But I was like, okay, I'm going to get that 50-cent drink, and I'm going to get it. And I'm going to look the girl in the eye when she brings it to me. I'm going to tell her thank you. And I'm going to have at least the tiniest human connection and this little piece of goodness, because I really need this to keep me going. And so that was just something that I made myself do. I was like, you've got to get out of the house. You have to connect on some capacity with other people because it is good for your soul.
And you got that good Sonic ice.
I think that's I think that's a huge key, what you're saying though, about being brave to say like, hey, I'm feeling off today. I am not going to be very fun. One of my best friends has really taught me about that because she's very good at being real about her feelings. I'm naturally like an energetic, happy person. So when I am in a funk, I'm like, nobody wants to be around me because, sorry about the dog.
I love that.
Nobody wants to be around me because I feel insecure about who I am when I'm sad or when I am I'm anxious or I'm in a weird place. And the thing she's told me over and over is, I like you when you're fun and I like you when you're not fun too. And having friendships because I know I feel like what you're saying too is when I get that off my chest, I stop feeling so much pressure to be something I'm not. And then it feels a lot less stressful to go
down, boy.
He's talking now. to go. I feel a lot less pressure to pretend like I'm fine when I'm not, because that's ultimately like that is the most exhausting thing I can possibly think of. And then I usually end up having a great time, and it usually pulls me out of that funk. And to know your friends, they don't need you to perform. Maybe the wrong friends do, but those friends that really love you for who you are don't need you to perform or pretend.
Yeah.
Sounds like you've got one that might be attacking you right now.
Yeah, he's my new puppy, friend. And
that dog is going to tear it apart.
I know.
I love that we have kind of a theme going on here that is just really ministering to me and bringing me comfort, and it's that we're all weird.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's just admit it. And so a pastor's wife once said something to me that has really helped with my insecurity and my desire to just hang back. And that is, it's the attitude we have when we walk in that room feeling weird. Is it, here I am, Or is it, there you are, as if I've been waiting to see you? And ever since then, it has changed my whole perspective on saying yes to an event where I know I'm going to be walking into a full room. I happen to be married to a very gregarious man who's just friends with everybody. I don't think it's ever occurred to him to be anything less than ministerial. When he walks into a room, you just automatically feel like you're the center of why he's there. And so it's been a challenge for me because I would much rather just be an observer. And so I think about the fact that your book sheds light on kind of the unique dynamics in especially female relationships. Can you just touch on that? I know we're just have been having such a great time together. And now don't you love it? Our phones follow us everywhere. But the unique dynamics of female relationships.
I love this topic so much. I know you couldn't see it on the radio, but I just like perked up when you brought it up. I was like, oh yes, because this is one of the biggest things I have learned. And one of the things that has, dramatically decreased my social anxiety is I do feel like that. You've got to entertain, you've got to be charming. You kind of have to like make people like you and be people pleasy and have a funny story to share, have an interesting tidbit to give.
Yes.
You kind of have to delight, right? That's how I think a lot of us feel. And so like be on your A game, be your best self. And that's so much pressure. That's so much pressure. It's so much. And that is what we're putting on ourselves. I know that for me, that was a lot of where my social anxiety came from. Because I have two interesting stories. I don't have that much to give, I'm like, and so I kind of realized what a beautiful thing it is with, instead of trying to delight others, when I take that pressure off myself and go, I'm going to be delighted by someone. I'm going to sit there in front of them and just genuinely, I hope that I can have this moment with them where I see like, what a powerful thing to realize this other person that God has created and God has loved and God has formed and God has plans for. This person is right in front of me. And I have this moment as another person God has created to connect with them. How beautiful and how powerful is that? And instead of, I don't have to impress them, but I do want to be impressed by them. I do want to actually make them feel liked. I want them to walk away and feel more loved than they did before. And the best way to do that is kind of to like give them the space to shine. And it's just really changed the dynamic for me to take that pressure off of myself. I don't have to be funny. I don't have to be engaging. I don't have to be any of those things. I can simply practice the art of being delighted in another person. And that changes everything. That's such a powerful gift, honestly, to give somebody.
Wow.
Great job, Amy. Now people don't have to read How to Win Friends and Influence People because that's that is the crux of that book, is being a good listener,
Yes. Oh, yeah. I've never read it. So there you go.
Yeah. We don't need to read that anymore. But you're right. I think that in fact, this is really, a story that came out of that book is Dale Carnegie, who was at a party, and he's talking to the host of the party. And when the party was over, the host came over to him and said, hey, that lady that you were talking to said you were really interesting. And all he really did was ask her questions about herself, and what she did for a living. He hardly talked about himself, and she found him very interesting.
Yeah.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
People love to hear themselves.
Everybody likes to talk about themselves. So, yeah. Sorry. Even right now, I'm trying to talk about myself, and I'm talking over Jess, and I'm so sorry.
No, you're not.
Oh, goodness.
No, you're not.
One of the things I would love to talk about is vulnerability. I think, and I don't want to talk about okay, I don't know.
No, I'm just kidding.
Let's not talk about that. I don't know if it's harder for a guy or not, but I've found this about myself, that when I am public speaking, I end up being more vulnerable than I want to. Literally, as the words are coming, I can't believe I just said that, but there it went. I'm saying it right now in front of a room full of people. But for me, being vulnerable in front of one person is difficult. And I don't know why there's that bizarre thing where I could tell you all kinds of things in front of a group of people. How do we be more vulnerable with each other?
I think it takes practice. And I think it takes, Amy says every friendship starts with an act of bravery. I think every time you go deeper in a friendship, it also starts with an act of bravery on one person's part of just testing the waters. Sometimes you have to do it before you feel it. But I wouldn't say we need to be completely vulnerable with every friend we've got in our life right now, because that isn't safe. It doesn't feel safe because it isn't safe. But we can test the water with people. Like if you really have someone in your life that is a trusted person and you feel something there that you could go deeper with them, I'd say just testing the water, like testing it out, being a little more vulnerable and a little more real, and then paying attention. Are they a safe place for my real? Are they a safe place for my vulnerable? And then if they are, just continue to walk in that direction. And to feel, I think a big thing for me too is to feel it becoming reciprocal. Like I don't want to be the only person being vulnerable in the friendship.
Yeah.
So seeing if they're responding, if they're like, oh, they're trying to fix all my problems and then they never have their own problems, then maybe that's not somewhere I want to be super vulnerable. But if they're eventually able to be like, yeah, I'm struggling with this, that's a spot I want to explore more, and I want to keep being vulnerable in.
That's good.
Mm-hmm. Social media. Let's talk about that for a second. We've talked about it, about how we can mistake social media interaction for actual connection. I've got a group chat going. My best friend's there. I talk to her on Messenger. My other best, we're always constantly texting. We're exchanging memes. And I go so long doing that, I forget that we are not connecting. I don't even realize that it's all very surface and it's not the same sort of interaction we would have face to face. Yeah, every once in a while we try to, but it's not the same. How do we disconnect from that digital world to authentically connect?
I think one of the first things that we have to do is sort of accept this fact that all of us are limited in our time and our energy. We're all limited. We only have so much to give. And so if we can get really honest about where am I giving that away? Where am I wasting that? And a lot of times we're wasting that energy on social media. A lot of times we're wasting that in really shallow relationships. And so we don't have any left to give to the good stuff. We don't have any investments to make in wise places. So how can we pull back from these? And I think the first one is just acknowledging my time and energy is limited. I want to be mindful of that. I want to be good with it because that is a gift God has given me. So I want to be smart with it. And so you just kind of have to pull away little by little because all connections are not made equal. I think there are definitely tiers to it. In person is always going to be the strongest connection. Looking somebody in the eyes is always going to be more than the rest of them. So in-person connection is going to be the strongest. I would say in phone, when you can hear somebody's voice, that's going to be the next strongest. Text is going to come after that because let me tell you, a lot of problems are made through text messages because we hear that text message. Yeah. This person has written the text message in their voice, but we hear it in our voice. So things are miscommunicated. Like there was a group of us who we finally had to say, we're not having these conversations on text message anymore. Because I think if we could see each other's eyes and we could see that we weren't mad, we were hurt. If we could see that we're being defensive because we're insecure and not actually trying to lash out, we would be so much gentler with each other. We would handle this so much different than we are on text. So we're not going to do that anymore. It's leading to problems that don't actually exist.
I know. My husband and I, when we're being kind of snarky with one another, we use the thumbs up. And one of my best friends just uses that as confirmation that she's received a message. But I'm like, why are you snarking me right now? I was like,
Yeah.
what? I was just letting you know that I saw it.
Yes. So I just think we've got
Totally.
to get honest. Communications, like all forms of communication, are not made equal. Personally, I think social media connections are probably the weakest.
Yeah.
I do think God can use them, but I do think that's the weakest form of connection out there. And so we've got to pull away from that so we can give to something better.
So glad you said that.
Yeah.
I think that we maybe overvalue all of what we're putting out there on social media.
Yeah.
So much
Yes,
better
we-
just to be with somebody.
yeah.
Or,
You're saying we have to
It
be
is.
disciplined about this?
well,
Oh, no.
I don't know about that.
You have to be so disciplined because social media is very addicting. It was made to be
Yes.
addicting. It was not made so that you get on, feel good, and get off. It was made so that you stay on and you scroll and you scroll and you scroll and you just consume. So we have to be very, very mindful of that. And
that's
I
good.
don't know. I always tell my kids, if either you have power over something or it has power over you, and you got to figure out which one is which.
Wow, thanks, Mom. That is my lesson for today.
Right?
That was
Yes.
great.
I literally, as you were talking, I just got a little notification that my screen time was up for this week. I'm not even joking. It just popped up.
Listen, no
that's
shame, no judgment, because mine is too.
I know.
man.
Yes.
That's
I have
hilarious.
to sneak in one other point, just kind of in closing, knowing that no relationship escapes without hurt. I mean, we're so vulnerable towards each other, right? We care, and it's really an indication that we care. So, as we have to tear ourselves away, I feel like we could talk for 3 more days, but discuss the importance and the how-to of forgiveness. Just knowing it's kind of inevitable that something's going to come up. I mean, we were just talking about that. The chances and opportunities to even accidentally hurt a relationship. Talk about forgiveness.
Oh man, I think it's just so important to be open in our communication with our close friends. Like if we did hurt them, to work on being a safe place for them to be able to say, hey, you hurt my feelings, without getting super defensive and upset, so that we can repair some of that. I know that I actually think some conflict and some conversations like that bring us closer. And they, like, on the other side of hard conversations, we get closer. And another thing I think is that we need to get good at asking questions and not just reacting out of our hurt and being like, you did this, you did that, or more likely shutting down, being really upset, venting to somebody else and never saying anything. I think we can be curious in those places. Like, when you said this, I heard this. Is that what you meant? And if they did mean that, then okay, that hurt me because of this. And just getting good at those kind of conversations. And then I think when it is not reciprocal, when you share maybe that you're hurt and the person does not take responsibility, I think it's okay to, you just have to take care of your own heart in that situation. You can only, Amy says this, you can only clean up your side of the street. If somebody is not willing to clean up their side of the street, then that is, it doesn't work. You know, it doesn't fully heal in that situation, but you're only responsible for your side of the street. And then it's you working on your heart and releasing them, which can be a process. Let's be honest. You're not going to feel, if you've been really hurt by something, you're not going to feel, you can't force yourself to feel completely healed or happy about it in an instant. It's a process of releasing it, of prayer, and recognizing that stuff really hurts. It's not like a small thing. Friendship pain is very real, and sometimes grief is involved when we lose somebody. It's a real thing, but so then it's a process, but you got to release that you can't do anything for their side of the street.
Well, that's good. Ladies, thank you so much for hanging with us today. This has been really good stuff.
And
This is great. Thank you
so
so
fun.
much for having us.
Yeah.
Yes, and my offer still stands. I think I told y'all off air, but my offer to come in as a fourth it's on the table. Please stay.
Can never have too many friends.
Amy wants to be on the show. Well, when someone's sick,
That'd be
we'll give you a
fun.
call. How's that sound?
There you go.
yes,
That sounds amazing.
vacations.
I will Yes, I'm here for it.
Okay.
Oh, that's awesome. It's a how-to guide for deepening your friendship and doing life together. Here for it, the good, the bad, and the queso. Thank you so much, Amy Weatherly, Jess, that's Johnston, if you're looking for their names. And then they've got the other book out that they already have, all about it's I'll be there, but I'll be wearing sweatpants. So, really good. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
Oh.